Welcome to the 5% podcast. My name is Amir. I'm the founder and host. On today's episode, we're going to talk about productivity and time management. Those are two really key components to being successful in the world today. So to get started, there's this book I've been reading called The Strengths Finder 2.0. It's by Tom Rath. And in the first chapter, actually, titled The Path of Most Resistance, Tom Rath directly quotes, at its fundamentally flawed core, the aim of almost any learning program is to help us become who we are not. So basically to transform yourself. So now, in order to transform ourselves, one way to do so is through being productive and managing our time to the best of our abilities. Which is why last week I actually encountered an example of this. One of my side hobbies, so to say, is cooking. And, I was under a little bit of a time pressure just because, I had to pick up someone from the airport. And, I only had 45 minutes to throw together this stir fry that I knew would take longer than that. So basically, I said, you know what? I just got to put my mind to this. I've got to, just get this done. And so I quickly came up with a plan. I threw together, the vegetables, cut them up, picked the protein, threw that together, cooked up the rice, did all that. And next thing I know, it's all done within like 30 minutes. And I looked at the clock and I was like, oh my God, I did this. And so my main takeaway from that was, if you put your mind to something in this world, you can truly do anything. You look at some of the most successful people in this world, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they're experts at this stuff, you know, and, you know, now to transition into the cool part, I'm going to introduce my first guest on this first episode. We have Zareen. Zareen, take it away. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I just need to preface this by saying that you looked at a stir fry and you came up with all that. That's like making of genius. But anyways, so hi guys, I'm Zareen Khan. I am an international student from Bangladesh. I went to the University of Oklahoma in the last 4 years, got my undergrad and graduate degree in management information technology. And I moved to Chicago almost a year ago for work. So currently, I'm a technology consultant at Deloitte, and I'm gonna try to simplify what I do. But essentially, we take a system called an ERP system, which consolidates different departments in a company from like your accounting to your payroll to your supply chain, which all under this one system. And we implement the system in pre-IPO firms. So firms that are startups and haven't gone public yet. Um, so I know it's like super fun stuff, but that is essentially what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Sweet. Sweet. How do you like it?
I, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I had my reservations, and I'll get into that more through this podcast. But I like it. I love my team. I love the people I work with, and something I've definitely realized is the people you work with make up like more than half of what you do. Um, Love the city, and I definitely think I made the right choice for my life. So for now, given where I am, I think I can definitely say that I'm good with what I chose.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So glad to hear. All right. So the first question I wanted to ask you, related to productivity and time management and kind of how you use that in your career.
Mhm.
So, you know, how do you be efficient or manage your time when you're learning something for the first time?
So this is actually such a fantastic question because as in your first career of your new in your blah, for your first year in your new job right after college, basically most of your time is spent learning new things, right? So I remember when I first got to Deloitte, I was told that I had to get this certification for this ERP course in order to get staffed on clients. And it had to, I had to learn about something that I had never worked on before. It was a huge database. It was complex. It had so many steps, right? So literally more than the amount of value you're going to add in your first year, or at least for me, I think my first year was spent more on like rapid learning. And at first it looked like a huge like chunk. Like how am I ever going to learn all of this in time to add value? But I think when learning new things, a goal that or a skill that I really picked up in the past year was learning how to break it down into smaller chunks, right? Like for example, to go back to your stir fry, you were like, okay, I have 45 minutes and there's so many ingredients, whatever am I gonna do? But you just like broke it down into the veggies and the protein and the rice in 30 minutes, you're done. So I think when you're learning something new, a great way to do it is like, yes, you understand your overarching goal, but let's say you have a learning course, right? Like one of the mini courses within that learning course could be 2 hours. Another could take another 5 hours. So you could like break down your larger goal into smaller goals and kind of anticipate how long do I see myself comfortably taking to meet each of these mini goals that fold up to this overarching parent goal, right? Add a timeline to each of them, add a deadline to each of them that you can comfortably meet, knowing your other like commitments, work commitments. And that at the end of, you put 30 minutes into creating that, that's an investment because at the end of that, you know exactly all the small tasks you have to do, you know how long each of those tasks are going to take, and you know by when you will be done. And it's really hard to see the light at the end of that tunnel when you're looking at only that one big goal. So it becomes a lot more digestible and way less intimidating. Um, yeah, and definitely go in with a fresh perspective. That really helps.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what are some things when you first started in your career that you wish you had known?
Oh.
It's a little bit of a tough one.
So yeah, no, it's like, I want to say, so, when you're a senior in college, you've walked the streets, you know more people, you know what you're doing with your classes, like, you have your brand, it's created. So normally you are one of the people in the room who know more than the rest of the people in that room do. So at least that's how it was for me. I had a great senior year. And then I moved and I started working and I knew absolutely nothing. Like I was back to being at the bottom of the food chain, right? It is such a quick transition. And not just in terms of your career, right? Like for a lot of people, or for me, like I moved to a new city, new people, new home, new job in which I didn't know how to do what I had to do. So it was a lot of like new learning. And so I think when we're in college, we put so much importance, I mean, rightfully so, into getting that job or achieving that dream goal, like role that we had been working towards for 4 years. But I think what we don't think about, because we don't necessarily have the time to think about it, is what does that entail, right? So for me, what that entailed was I had to be comfortable with being very uncomfortable on a daily basis and with not being better than average for a while, um, to not being a core part of the operations because I had to achieve certain like learning goals to be able to know enough to add value to like $1 million operation, right? So just keeping in mind that yes, it is a great goal to have achieved, but it is literally the first chapter of a completely new book. It's not a new chapter. You're in a new book.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so Um, yeah, I think a heads up for that would have been nice, but we made it through. Life's good.
We made
Everyone's
it.
gonna be okay.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. That is great. That is great. So now, what's some advice you'd want to give to someone who's like just starting out in your career path?
Starting out in my career path, I would say that if you just graduated college and you're starting out in my career path, this is your last summer until you're like fired or don't have a job. So live up that summer like there's no tomorrow. Part one. Part two, I think definitely like what I mentioned above, like be comfortable with the idea of being consistently uncomfortable and not knowing as much as the people around you. Um, and that the counterpart to that point is be a sponge, right? Like there's so much to learn. And that's not always a bad thing, right? The more you have to learn to be successful, the larger your learning curve and your growth curve is going to be. Like when you look back at the end of that first year and really objectively look at it, you're going to think about it and you're going to be like, damn, I did not see myself storing all that information in my brain in this past 1 year, right? Knowing all these new things that I had no clue existed before. Um, and so being a sponge, learning like how does your company want you to act professionally? Go to like the first like couple years of your career is not about being uncomfortable. Go to all of those networking events, build those like out of meeting relationships with people who you work around and work with, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be people in your team because in the long term in your career, it's your network that is going to provide you like really random levels of value. Um, and there was something else I was going to say. Right. Remember this. Our careers are so long. Like, let's say if you live to the average age that a human person, um, your career is probably like 25 to 30 years minimum. And so that first year, whether you're doing something you love, whether you didn't expect your job to be exactly what you thought it would be, or whether you're doing something that you didn't want to have to be doing, but you're there anyways. Like that 1 year is just such a small piece of this wide, long-term picture that it's very important to remember that bigger picture and how this 1 year will contribute like a foundation, but it is not your entire career, right? So learn as much as you can. Don't worry about that promotion. Don't worry about that bonus because if you're focusing on learning enough to add value and being your best professional self, that promotion and that bonus will follow. Um, it's like studying for a test to get an A with your Chegg versus studying for a test to understand the material, and you'll get that A anyways, right? Um, so yeah, I know I just said so much, but be comfortable with being uncomfortable, enjoy that last summer, and remember the bigger picture. Because chances are, if you're starting off as a tech consultant in year one, you could, I don't know, like you could be like a professional chef like Amir in 10 years. Like you never know where your career is going to go. So yeah, enjoy it. It's not supposed to be a linear trajectory. It can literally go any direction you want it to go.
That is
So
that is awesome advice. Really appreciate it, Zareen.
yeah, of course, this was fun.
Yeah, yeah, I hope it was. Yeah, okay, perfect. So, like Zareen said, take Zareen's advice and, apply it to your daily lives and all that. And, yeah, that was awesome, Zareen. I'm just touched by all your advice.
No, I really appreciate you thinking of me. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you. All right. With that being said, that is our episode on productivity and time management. And, stay tuned for future episodes.